Okay, looks like we are live with office hours with Patti Vasquez. For all of you folks joining in, this is our next level deeper at the Minocqua Brewing Company times when we dig in to with our writers who have written essays over the week, and we dig in for our subscribers who can ask questions and get kind of more snippets sent to them later. So everyone, we are happy to have Patti Vasquez live with us today. Patti, thanks for joining for our little office hours.
My pleasure. And so fun. This is exciting to watch because I don't always on my radio show get to see people as they join us live, even though we're on Facebook. I have like 8 screens in front of me. So it's like, I feel like it's a romper room. Hi, Mary and Dill. And
Yeah, it's like, everybody pops in.
the whole time I'm easily distracted. Hey, Kirk, good to see you.
Hey. Okay, so you wrote on Monday about it's the river is green and apparently people are voting today
Yeah.
across Illinois.
Where I had my bangers and mash. A lot of people go with the corned beef and cabbage. I'm bangers and mash, the black puddings and all the sausages. And it's a great day in Chicago. We love our St. Patrick's Day here. And I'm wearing my green shirt is immigrants make our community stronger.
Nice. All right. So you wrote a lot about this primary is apparently super important to lots of people and lots of people with lots of money.
Yeah.
Can you give us kind of the lay of the land of like there's like 7 congressional seats in a primary and seemingly AIPAC is funneling money. What's going on in Chicago?
Okay. Funny because I've been doing interviews, pretty much anytime someone started to launch a candidacy, they either reached out to us or we reached out to them about coming on the show. Because, the more we can talk to candidates, the more we maybe learn about where they're coming from. I like to get down to the story of like, I start with where'd you grow up? What'd you do for a living? What'd you set out in life to do? I want to know those stories. That's what's compelling to me about what leads someone to want to run for office. The unique situation right now, and I just looked this up the last couple of days. This is the biggest number of vacancies and candidates that we have had in 80 years. Jan Schakowsky is retiring. Danny Davis is retiring. So these are like the Illinois 9th, the Illinois 7th. Chuy Garcia is retiring. And that was a really interesting, I don't know if you've seen anything about how that kind of played out. I've been watching a lot of these sort of unfold. Truth be told, there are people who I thought should have perhaps hung up their hats sooner. Including, our Senate race with Dick Durbin. I think that, last few years with the way he's handled the blue slips and the courts, I think that perhaps we would have benefited. And Jan Schakowsky, who is 81 years old. So those are some rather, look, they've done work, but at any rate, that's not the part we're talking about. We're talking about the money that's coming in. So far, from what I've understood and researched, $62 million in super PAC money from organizations like AIPAC, DraftKings, which is trying to have some sway on the candidates as well, special interests. We also have crypto bros. We have hedge fund investors, some of whom invested heavily in Donald Trump winning again. So it's pretty wild. And people who had pledged not to take super PAC money, in particular not to take AIPAC money, are doing so. And I ran a race in 2020 and there were special interest groups that asked me to sit down with them. And I was just like, I want to have nothing to do with charter schools. And for folks who don't know, and this is what I learned when I ran. So this is,
Yep.
I mentioned this in the article. I am not striving for perfection. I believe in learning everything I can along the way. That's what I think makes us liberals and progressives, is that we will take new information and go, oh, now I can base my opinion and my actions going forward. So super PACs do not collaborate with the candidate. They put money into spending, whether it's negative ads or whatever, like manpower, like they work in ways that are not associated with necessarily with the candidate, but you can see where they are trying to have a severe and heavy influence on a race in order to be, we see at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level, how much big money has an impact on our policies.
So obviously, most of these, I'm guessing all these districts are going to, the primary is the general election because everybody's a Democrat here. So these are really big. And seemingly, if we have free and fair elections in November, and that's still to be seen whether or not Trump nationalizes or does crazy things. But if it all goes as according to plan, it's pretty reasonable to assume that the Democrats will take control of the House again, which means that these people who are getting elected in the primary today will be in the majority in the U.S. House of Representatives and will be able to vote on whether or not to keep arming Israel. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of Democrats who are, there's an entire wing that's growing and growing and growing, and I've flipped to this wing. I was pro-Israel my entire life until recently, when it just seems like they just went hog wild and they turned into the MAGA, or Netanyahu turned into like the Trump of Israel, and they started attacking everybody. So seemingly there's a big part of the Democratic Party that's not the corporate Dems or progressives or the Justice Democrats who are not who don't want to see Israel being aggressive, bombing, the genocide against Gaza. They don't want to see Israel, just kind of leading us by the tail in terms of getting into, warring with Iran. So what are they? Let's talk about APAC more than some. I mean, I get the crypto stuff. A lot of it's all over the place, but the reason it's happening in Illinois right now is because these people will be able to vote and be in the majority and vote on stuff that the Republicans probably won't even be able to touch. So
Yep.
let's talk about APAC.
Yep.
What are they doing right now? I mean, you wrote about some kind of shady things that are happening with super PACs.
Yeah, I mean, the negative ads alone, is part of it. Spreading stories that are false, and essentially, like, now it seems as though the APAC is making it look as though those who are not taking APAC are taking APAC. So they're like using themselves as like this, the boogeyman. Like, they're leaning into themselves as being the. It is wild, and they are backing rate. Some of the candidates who might not have a shot at even winning, putting money in. And here's the thing: if you're desperate, if you think, okay, this is my way of, I'll lean into this too, and not separate myself from that, because some people are that desperate. I talked to a legislator years ago who told me he would step over his own dead mother's body to win his seat again, and I'm not sure what. But they are Democrat. I mean, like, told me that he would do anything it took, and I'm actually curious to see. It's a state race, so I'm curious to see how he does today, because he is being challenged by a young progressive, like by the people who are like, it can't be like this. There are so many young, and not just young candidates. I don't want to, I'm 54, so I call these 40-year-olds kids. But a lot of them are taking the pledge to not take corporate money, to not take APAC money, not to take dark money, and it's having an impact. And I think that so those are the ones not taking APAC money.
Yeah.
But there are other outliers who have enough juice, have enough support from let's say unions and things like that. Maybe they're already an elected official who has people in their corner. So it lends itself to credibility. Oh well, they've been representing my community, and then you have these ads coming in. They drain from maybe the more progressive candidates who would not be beholden to.
So what you're saying is APAC and like the APAC adjunct groups who you mentioned have formed within the week, so they don't have to say who their real parent is until
Yep.
after the election, even though it probably is APAC because they're running the similar kind of messaging.
Yep.
You're saying that they're funding candidates who aren't going to win so that they will draw support away from the progressive candidate who's in it for the right reasons, who's not taking money from a special interests. And that's just dirty pool.
Yep.
But it's dirty pool because in primaries, you can have as many people running as possible. Yeah. Or, it's not like one versus the other. So you can kind of just play the odds.
And if I
Um,
might, one problem that we have, and I think most, I don't know about a lot of states, because we're seeing in Texas that they're going to have a runoff for their primary. We do not do a simple majority for our primaries. It is a plurality. So,
mm,
for example, when I ran in 2020, we had 3 candidates, and I got 38% of the vote. if that gives you some idea. The incumbent only got 42% of the vote.
Ugh.
So, I'm just so fair vote, ranked choice voting, I think is crucial in primaries. I get that people might feel a little hinky when it comes to the general. That's fine, but I absolutely think this is a good example of why we need to have ranked choice voting. Because if I look at the Senate race, you know what? I'm trying to stay neutral. But if I was able to rank it, I was talking to somebody about like the three people like personality wise that I would like, like if I was to have a coffee or a beer with them, but the people I want in there fighting might not be ranked in that order.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. All right, way to keep it, on the top level there, Patty. No need to offend half of your listening audience, but most of us probably listening on this are from Wisconsin, or maybe not all from Illinois. So we probably don't need to know the internecine Democratic battles going on there. I wanted to mention a few names, and it kind of leads into my next topic.
Yep.
So money obviously has poisoned our politics, and
Oh,
Citizens United has. But I want to talk about two candidates that I actually met because I was at an activist conference. Jerry was there with me, your producer, and Amy, who produces the podcast. We were all at the Riviera Theater, and we had this woman named Kat. Uh, it's a
Pal-
tough last name. She's Palestinian American, and we had Dylan. Uh, Shoot, do you know the last names?
Blaha.
Blaha, Dylan Blaha, and Kat Katsa something Stan or something like that. It's a very tough Palestinian.
Pale.
Okay,
I,
okay. So
and I'm slightly off, but I try very hard
I
because I've had
yeah,
all on the show. She actually came up to me at Broadview. She has been at Broadview consistently. Every time I've been there, she's been there. She was, if you remember the footage of this is back in the fall, and they said that, even a candidate for Congress was thrown to the ground. That's Kat Abu Ghazaleh.
got it. So I mean, I met these folks, and they have managed, because they're part of the resistance and they're showing up and all the protests. I mean, there's all these people who are blowing up across the country, but they're coming to Chicago and they're coming to Minneapolis. They went to DC, and these candidates, because they've shown up, are I've heard about them, and I shouldn't be hearing about them because I'm not going to be close to voting for them. And I think nationwide people have heard about these candidates. And tell me if I want to talk about what AIPAC is doing to those two in particular, and then B, I want to talk about the power of influencing versus money.
Right. I haven't seen too much of the ways in which Dylan Blaha's race has been impacted. He is running against a Democratic incumbent in a little bit outside of the Chicagoland area. Like, he's Rockford. So I don't remember which race he's in. Cat vacated seat by Jan Chakowski, which has a pretty big field. I believe there's like 13 candidates,
Yeah,
including several incumbents, including State Senator Mike Simmons, who does not take super PAC money, Mayor Daniel Biss of Evanston, who that's somebody like, so what they've done is they're trying to now turn it back on Cat, right? So at first it was, so there's also State Senator Laura Fine in that race, who is the one that seems to be most positively impacted by what AIPAC is spending on that race. So I
yeah,
think, and I think what they're trying to do, and I don't know, it's hard. Like, this is one of those races where are they trying to get either Mayor Biss, and I'm sure he would hate me saying that. I don't know. These are the ways in which this sort of works. It
yeah,
manipulates race, but now they're spreading rumors about cats. They actually were trying to pay influencers $1,500 to make anti-cat videos. So a lot of the videos you'll see on social media are about how she's performative. They call her names about like that she's not really a progressive, that she doesn't know what she's doing, that she's a plant, that kind of stuff. There are videos about how she moved here specifically to run for that specific seat, like she targeted it, and whether that's look. Whether or not that's the case, if she has the goods, are two different things. They call her a carpetbagger, things like that. So that race in particular, for Dylan's race, I mean, Dylan is a military. So that's an interesting race because he and another candidate named Demi Palachuk, who's running for state rep seat, they both have pledged to not take illegal orders. They're both service members.
yeah,
They have pledged to, and I believe they're both under investigation by the military. Anyway, that's not what you asked. But AIPAC is, I mean, they are flooding the airwaves. They are
yeah.
negative mailers. To give you an example, about mailers, so people probably hate that mail, that all those big pieces of paper, and like Juliana Stratton's are really horrible. They're like they make her look darker, and like
Yeah.
the of it and stuff. But mailers are effective for people who are low information voters, and I expect that most of the people tuning in are not low information. I know it sounds rude, but there are plenty of people out there who are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They think it's the rate is like 30% of undecided voters will make their minds up like on that last piece of literature that they get. So APAC's taking their chances with that.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that uh, you know the oh so APAC is going against these progressive folks who are definitely going to vote if they win. They're going to vote against
Yep.
funding, blindly funding Israel for every adventure they want to take militarily. They're going to vote against any ICE DHS kind of funding. They're the folks that you and I have been writing all of these things. So I think that you'd agree that these are the issues that we're for as well. As we've been writing about it for a year. The one Senate race. Let's go back to crypto for a second. So this Raja versus Juliana Stratton. I'm not sure if there's anybody else in the race, but the guy Raha is backed by lots of the same
Oh,
characters that MAGA backed. Mark
yep,
Andreessen,
yep.
who is completely MAGA, like big tech, that's for Palantir, for surveillance, for AI, and they're working part and parcel with the Department of Defense, and trying to, and all over, kind of becoming a technocracy and getting rid of a democracy. So, but this guy's running as a Democrat. How in the world is he getting away running as a Democrat when he's funded by all these MAGA interests?
Well, this is another one where I have to be sort of delicate, I guess, because I think that I honestly think that Raja Krishnamurthy is going to he's a congressman. I think he's going to be successful. I just and whatever money behind him, he is a machine when it comes to raising money. I mean, he came into this race with buckets of money, and so I believe Juliana Stratton is the biggest target there. She's the one that's polling closest, but not even it's not it's how do I put this? I like look, for example, I saw a news story the other day, casting aspersions on the fact that Governor Pritzker, she's his lieutenant governor, that he had. I mean, it was so wild to see this story because it was like, oh yeah, that happened last year. They ran the story that that Congresswoman Lauren Underwood was interested in seeking that seat. That the governor had. Their reporting was that the governor had sort of bullied her. They made this whole news piece on NBC News with some folks that I know are more conservative, by the way,
Yeah.
uh, making it seem very suspicious and like there were a lot of underhanding deal, like saying that he was strong arming people now, like organizations. So
Mm.
whether that's the case, we're in a situation now where I don't know who to trust. I don't go to source anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was also part of their doing. With
Uh,
the getting that story there or making promises to somebody about getting access to some other, all those things.
got it. All right. So the one shining light. So there seems like a lot of nastiness happening in this race, but I
In
think the one
Chicago?
shining
In politics?
Chicago politics. So what are you gonna expect, right?
Like,
I can't in Wisconsin. We're like it's a lot easier because you were fighting we're fighting against the Republicans all the time. We're not have to fighting against shady Democrats, but
well,
um, yeah,
that's something that I really wanna go back to just for a second for ranked choice voting. I think it is harmful. So what APAC is doing is not just, trying to sort of, make the progressives weaker or elevate their preferred candidate, but you end up also chewing up good Democrats and spitting them out, which I think is, when I ran, I think is unfortunate that Democrats run like this to sort of, I was told that if I ran for office, it would be political suicide. And whether or not that's the case, I don't know that I want to run again. I'd rather do the work that we do
yeah.
has been, I think, impactful.
Well,
But
yeah, 'cause if you run a race like with 8 other people and you get shredded in public, how many times do you want to run again? And so yeah, you're right. You can lose 8 good Democrats at a time in every race. That's
yeah,
yeah.
my race in particular, they called me an incumbent, and not for through a super PAC. She did this from her own campaign, called me a disgusting extremist who couldn't help protect women and children in the cases of rape. And I am a rape survivor, childhood sexual violence survivor. And usually, apparently, the way it used to be that when Democrats would do this to each other, they winning candidate would reach out and be like, "Hey, I hope we can put that behind us. Can we work together?" Never received a phone call. Never received, and actually was intimidated by her and her powerful boyfriend at my place of employment. So,
Ugh, ugh,
like, so yeah, I don't.
rough. I'm sorry, Patty. I've heard this story before over beers, and I don't love it at all.
Well,
Um, so the one I wanted to turn it. Oh yeah, sorry. Go.
no, but we want good people to run for office, and this isn't the way we do it. Go ahead.
For sure. So the one thing I wanted to mention though is I kind of want to end on this is that with all this money being kind of chewing up good candidates or potentially, trying to play dirty pool so that progressives won't get elected. The one positive thing is that the world of influencers, I mean, the world of independent media, I have heard this cat person's name and I have heard Dylan's name and I've heard Demi Polachek's name. And it's not just because of that, this activist thing, you've got, Cliff Cash talking about these candidates. You've got Kazem Rashid, talking about these candidates. And that's saying that these people don't necessarily need money to be put into the upper echelons of a Chicago primary.
Yeah,
And so they're even though millions are being spent, the name recognition and this people who are joining into these our little talks that we're having right now and the Substack stuff and everybody's the blogosphere, the podsphere that can actually do the trick. I'm sure Mom Donmy got outspent gazillion to one, and
oh
he's the mayor of New York.
yeah,
So, AIPAC certainly didn't like him. So that I think, hopefully, we can use the power of this mass platforming of progressive, personalities and influencers to get past the money and then get those people in who then can vote against
yeah.
Citizens United and codify that in the law that we just got to get that money out of politics.
Well, and I think, and this kind of goes across different industries because I've been talking about this with comedians in that as hard as it is for some of us to make that switch from, doing self promotion was hard anyway, and now just talking to the camera, and we feel like dorks, and we're not. Some of us are not great at it. It also removes the gatekeepers, and that includes political machines. So I think that's something that has also drawn a lot of attention and the money. Is like, oh, we don't have this. Kat is a good storyteller. Dylan Blaha, Demi, a lot. I mean, and the other candidates, I mean, I saw the Senate president yesterday just give the most, I mean, I know cringe works to an extent, but you're like, it looked like somebody had told him, do this or we're not giving you any more money for your campaigns, right? Today. You should, it's very awkward. So the storytellers, the people that can communicate are going to really, I think, have an edge on this. Adam Mockler, I don't know if he created it, but the attention economy. If you can get people's attention, because it's not just getting the name out there, it's also then you can say, hey, contribute to my campaign to this massive audience. People
Yep.
get $5, $10. If they're doing regular contributions of $50 a month, whatever that is, makes a big difference in these races.
Got it. All right, Patty, thanks for giving us the 101 on this wild St. Patty's Day of voting in Illinois. Let's hope a few good progressives win so that we can go into November, even if we have elections or not, with the hope that we can turn things around in America.
Well, Erin go bra, mis amigos, from the Irish Mexican girl in Chicago.
Say that again. What did you say?
I said Erin go bra, mis amigos, from the Irish Mexican American Chicago girl.
Sounds good. All right, Patty. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Here.